Namo Amida Buddha. The Four Profound Thoughts Which Turn the Mind Towards Amida Dharma by Reverend Joshua Adrian Sulia. Samsara is suffering. As Shinran said in Tanisho, quote, "It is hard for us to abandon this old home of pain, where we have been transmigrating for innumerable kalpas down to the present." End quote. Our minds are conditioned by our habitual karma from beginning this time to think that we can find happiness and fulfillment in the samsaric states of existence, and so we continue to project false images of beauty into various objects of desire and make ourselves dependent on them. However, if we look more deeply at samsaric existence with eyes influenced by the Buddha Dharma, we come to realize that everything, from the worlds of the gods to the hell realms, is nothing but an ocean of suffering and dissatisfaction. This awareness, as well as the previous three profound thoughts, will naturally lead us to the only wish that is worth something: to get out, to escape samsara, and to attain the state of Buddhahood for us all and all beings, including our dear ones. In order to help us become aware of the painful reality of the samsaric existence and to make us desire to escape from it, Shakyamuni Buddha and all the masters of our lineage and other lineages put great efforts in describing the 6 planes of existence. Quote, "Leaving the unclean world means to abhor and to depart from this impure world. It means to depart not only from this human world, but also from the entire 6 realms. These, all taken together, constitute what is called the 3 worlds. There is no peace in the 3 realms. The Buddha explained them by comparing them with a burning house and by saying that it is like living in a house which is on fire. It is a thing above all from which to separate oneself with a feeling of disgust." End quote. Thus, let us all carefully contemplate the various pains of samsaric existence until we are deeply impressed by them. Then, quickly turn our minds toward Amida Dharma and Amida Buddha, entrusting our karmic destiny to him, and wish to be reborn in his pure land after death. As Master Genshin stated, quote, "Truly, this world is a prison house, and the pure land is our true country. We should therefore make haste to dislike and escape from this prison house, and turn to our true country of the pure land." End quote. As death comes to each one of us, we'll certainly die one day, due to the exhaustion of our karma, which provided us with the present human life. And if we haven't yet entrusted ourselves to Amida Buddha, we'll be reborn in one of the samsaric realms, impelled by the power of our karma. So please, contemplate the suffering inherent in all the 6 realms, and try to imagine yourself there. Because you'll surely remain in samsara if you do not accept Amida's helping hand. As slaves to their own delusions, blind passions, and karma, unenlightened beings are reborn in a 3-fold manner. 1. In terms of the 3 planes of existence, they are reborn in the world of desire, the world of form, and the world of non-form. In terms of the types of beings, they are born as the 6 kinds of beings: hell dwellers, hungry ghosts, animals, humans, demigods, and gods. In terms of the type of birth, they are born in 4 ways: from the womb, like human beings, some animals and devas, or gods, inhabiting the earth; from the egg, like birds and fishes; from heat and moisture, like some insects and worms; and by spontaneous birth, such as gods, pretas, or hungry spirits, and hell dwellers. The world of desire is the lowest of the 3 planes of existence, and it contains, from the bottom to the top, the realms of hells, the realm of hungry ghosts, the realm of animals, the realm of humans, the realm of fighting spirits or demigods, asuras, and some realms of the gods. The world of form and the world of non-form contains only the realms of superior gods. Now let's describe them in detail and contemplate the various sufferings and dissatisfactions associated with each one of them. 1. Contemplating the sufferings of hell beings. There are 8 hot hells and 8 cold hells. According to Shakyamuni and various Buddhist masters who explained them, these 8 hells have their own adjacent or neighboring hells, utsadas. Quote, "There are 8 hells there that I have revealed, difficult to get out of, full of cruel beings, each having 16 utsadas. They have 4 walls and 4 gates. They are as high as they are wide. They are encircled by walls of fire. Their ceiling is fire, their sun is burning, sparkling fire, and they are filled with flames hundreds of yojanas high. End quote. Another type of hell are also the temporary hells, which were created through the actions of one being, 2 beings, or many beings. As Vasubandhu explained, their variety is great and their place is not fixed, so they can be found in rivers, mountains, deserts, and elsewhere. Before entering into any explanation of these hells, I think it is very important to mention that all the tormentors, hell wardens, or terrifying beasts who are sometimes described as applying punishments are not living beings, but manifestations of the evil karma of those born there. Thus, even if they are real for the inhabitants of hell, they do not have an existence of their own. Vasubandhu clearly explained this in the 4th stanza of his Vijna Mantra Vimsaka, and he stated the same in his Abhidharma Maku Sabhahasyam. In my description of these hells, I guide myself especially after Ugaran of Asanga, Kusharan of Vasubandhu, and Ojayushu of Master Genshin, who himself quoted the above-mentioned masters and works, as well as various sutras and treatises. The 8 hot hells. 1. Hell of repetition, or the reviving hell. The inhabitants of that hell see each other as mortal enemies and furiously fight with one another with huge and inconceivable weapons created by their karma, until everyone is cut into pieces. As Master Genshin said in his Ojayosho, quote, whetting their iron claws, they proceed to scratch each other's eyes out and lacerate the flesh on each other's thighs until the blood runs out and the bones are exposed. They cut their flesh into slices with sharp swords, as fish is sliced in the kitchen. End quote. When they all lie dead, a voice from the sky of that hell says, revive, and they immediately come back to life and restart their fighting. The time they spend in that hell is described by Genshin as follows. Quote, 1 day and night in the realm of the 4 Deva kings is as long as 50 years of human life, and life in the realm of the Deva kings lasts 500 years. But 1 night and 1 day in this hell is equal in length to the length of life in the realm of the Deva kings, and the victims have to remain in this hell 500 years. End quote. 2. Hell of the Black Rope. The beings born in this hell, due to their evil karma, are seized by the hell wardens, laid down on the ground made of burning metal, and marked with, quote, hot iron cords in both directions, as a carpenter makes marks with his line. End quote. Then they are cut into pieces with burning swords and iron axes, or disemboweled with swords along these lines. As soon as their bodies are thus cut into pieces, they immediately become whole once again, and the process repeats itself over and over again. Master Genshin also described another torment for those reborn in this hell. Quote, sometimes they, that is the hell wardens, spread nets made of innumerable hot iron ropes and drive the sinners into these, and then an evil wind begins to blow, which wraps the fiery nets around the sinners, roasting the flesh and charring the bones. On the right hand and the left are high iron mountains. On the top of these mountains are fastened flagstaffs made of iron, and an iron rope is fastened at either end to these staffs, and thus stretches from one mountain top to the other. Beneath this rope are placed in a row a number of large cauldrons filled with a boiling, steaming substance. The sinners, with heavy burdens fastened on their back, are forced to walk across this rope, and naturally they cannot help from falling into the boiling cauldrons below. In these they are boiled for a long time till bones and flesh are reduced to an indistinguishable mass. End quote. The time they spend in that hell is described by Genshin as follows. Quote, 100 years of human life are equal in length to 1 day and night in the Toratan, and in this heaven life lasts 1,000 years, but the length of life in the heaven of the 33 gods is equivalent to only 1 day and night in this hell, and here life lasts 1,000 years. Those who have destroyed life or who have stolen anything fall into this hell. End quote. 3. Hell of assembly, or the rounding up and crushing hell. Master Genshin described this hell as follows. Quote, in this hell are numerous iron mountains arranged in pairs so as to face each other. There are in this place various ox-headed and horse-headed hell wardens, who are armed with all sorts of pronged iron sticks and clubs, which serve as instruments of torture. With these they drive the sinners before them, and make them pass between the pairs of mountains, whereupon these mountains come together, crushing the victims till the blood oozes out and covers the ground. Then again there are iron mountains tumbling from the sky, which crush the sinners into fragments like grains of sand. Sometimes the victims are placed upon a rock and crushed with another rock. End quote. Other texts say that sometimes the mountains facing each other turn into the flaming heads of various animals, which the hell beings have killed in their past lives, and who now throw themselves into one another, catching the poor people in the middle and crushing them to death. Again, like in the other hells, when the dwellers die, they are revived and the torture starts again, as described above. The time they spend in that hell is described by Genshin as follows. Quote, 200 years of human life are equal in length to 1 day and night in Yamatan, where life lasts 2,000 years. But 1 day and night in this hell is as long as life in Yamatan, and in this hell the victims must remain 2,000 years. Murderers, thieves, and adulterers fall into this hell. End quote. 4. Hell of Lamentations. Here the beings are roasted in buildings of hot metal with no exit, where they are boiled and poured molten copper into their mouths, which burns up their internal organs. The time they spend in that hell is described by Genshin as follows. Quote, 400 years of human life are equal in length to 1 day and night in Toso Tsuten, and in this heaven life continues for 4,000 years, but the length of life in Toso Tsuten is equivalent to only 1 night and day in this hell, and here life lasts 4,000 years. Murderers, thieves, adulterers, and drunkards fall into this hell. End quote. 5. Hell of Great Lamentations. In this hell, the wardens put a multitude of victims into metal sheds with double walls blazing with fire and beat them with various weapons. The doors are all sealed, and the beings there howl in pain, thinking that even if they succeed in getting past the first door, they cannot get through the second. According to Genshin, quote, murderers, thieves, adulterers, drunkards, and those who use evil language fall into this hell. End quote. The time being spent there is described as follows. Quote, 800 years of human life are equal in length to 1 day and night in Karakuten, where life lasts 8,000 years. But 1 day and night in this hell is as long as life in Karakuten, and here life continues for 8,000 years. End quote. 6. Hell of Scorching Heat. In this hell, beings suffer by being cooked in huge iron cauldrons filled with molten bronze. Whenever they surface, they are grabbed by the hell wardens with metal hooks and beaten in the head with hammers until they lose consciousness. This loss of consciousness are the only moments of respite when they do not feel pain, but as it does not last long, the suffering is felt again and again. Master Genshin described other terrifying scenes from the hell of scorching heat. Quote, the hell wardens seize the sinners and make them lie on the ground, which is made of hot iron. Sometimes they make them lie facing upwards and sometimes downwards, all the time beating and punching them from head to foot until their flesh is beaten into a pulp. Sometimes they place them on a large roasting shelf made of iron and heated to an intense heat. Thus they roast them in a raging flame, turning them over first on one side and then on the other. They roast them until they are burned thin. Sometimes they fasten them on a large iron skewer, sticking these through them from the bottom to the head, and scorch them thoroughly till the flames enter the vital organs, their joints and bones, eyes, noses, and mouths. Then again they place them in a large cauldron and boil them like beans. And sometimes they place them on the upper floor of an iron house and cause raging flames of hot iron to envelop them from all directions, thus consuming even their bones and marrow. End quote. To make us aware of the destructive power of the fire manifested in this hell, Master Genshin provided us with a comparison. Quote, if one should put a portion of this fire as small as the light of a firefly into this world of ours, it would consume this world in a short moment. What must then be the suffering of these sinners whose bodies, tender like budding grass, are being burned in this hell? The victims in this place look longingly up at the fires in the preceding 5 hells, for these seem by comparison cool, like snow or frost." End quote. The time being spent there is described as follows. Quote, 1600 years of human life are equal in length to 1 day and night in Takajisaiten, in which heaven life lasts 16,000 years. But the length of life in Takajisaiten is equivalent to only 1 day and night in this hell, and here life continues for 16,000 years. Murderers, thieves, adulterers, drunkards, those who use vile language, and heretics fall into this hell. End quote. Namo Amida Buddha.